Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody will have a really good week. And yeah, it has cooled down a bit here. It's in the mid 60s, so it's rather pleasant. I think it's supposed to get up into the mid to upper 70s later, but it's already 11 a.m. and it still has not passed 65 degrees. So it's just really pleasant in the house right now. But I wanted to point out something to you, and that is, yeah, look what I'm standing in front of. Yes, I got this fabulous cabinet here from Facebook Marketplace. I had gone to my husband and I had said, I really would like a little pantry to put in the kitchen because I'd like my canning stuff to be closer to the kitchen. And so we had been looking around. We had, gone online, went on Amazon, just kind of did the general looking around to see what's out there, what I could use, what we could afford. And everything that we could afford was not real wood, which would have been fine. I wasn't opposed to that. But then I decided, I just thought, oh, you know what, I should check on Facebook Marketplace, see what's going on there. And I saw this cabinet and I could not believe the price. The price was the same for just your, 3 foot by 6 foot, not a real wood pantry cabinet. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, wow. So I messaged her and I asked her if it was still available, and it was like a day later that she came back and she said, yes, it is still available. And I said, well, the dimensions say that it is 64 inches wide and 93 inches high. And I'm thinking, did she reverse that? Because that's almost 8 feet high. And she said, no, that is the actual measurement. So we set up a time to go and see it, and we just both fell in love with it. And they were wonderful people. Oh my goodness. They were a retired couple, not that much older than Rick and myself. And they had a beautiful home, and since they were both retired, this was a bookcase for them, and she worked out of her house. And so now she didn't really need an office. She wanted to redesign her room into a nice, comfortable reading room for herself. And so she was selling the office furniture because all of it was dark like this, and she wanted to lighten things up. And I just thought, oh, thank you, Lord. What a blessing that you put this in my path. So yeah, I'm very grateful because there's just so much room in here. And even down below, my big canners and everything fit in the bottom part without any problems. So I have lots of room and I'm all excited to fill it up. But anyways, I hope you want to stick around for a little bit of my day because you know what I'm going to do? Yeah, I am going to pickle some peppers. Well, this container here is what I was able to pick from our garden. And actually, I'll go out this morning and see if there's any more. I haven't checked for a few days, but my husband found out that I was going to be pickling some peppers. He stopped at the store and he brought home a variety of peppers. Yeah, God bless him. But anyways, yeah, I'm going to get my stuff together. I'm going to need to turn on my dishwasher to get my jars hot, and I have my water bath canner going, and I'm going to hold on. Reaching for, I don't know, it dropped. But the recipe says that it makes 5 half pints. Well, yeah, I have half pint jars, but they're just going to have to work because it's not like we can go out and buy jars now. They're just not available. I have lots of pint jars and quart-sized jars, but yeah, I'm not going to use up my jelly jars because I need them for my jellies. So I'll show you what I have. I have this shape. And yes, these are canning jars. I got them like, oh gosh, back in either 17 or 18, I had made some maple and onion syrup, and I gave these as gifts, but I made different types of syrups, and I used these half-pint jars because they were prettier and they had a gold rim on the top. They were more for gifty things. So yeah, I'm going to use these for his pickled peppers. So hey, what can I say? Use what you got, right? And so all it's going to take is some garlic cloves. You put a garlic clove on top, and some vinegar, water, canning salt, and sugar. And yeah, it looks pretty easy. I have never actually water bathed pickled peppers before. I've made pickled peppers and put them in the refrigerator for my husband as a refrigerator thing, and I've done green and red and yellow bell peppers. I've canned those. But yeah, this will be the first time. So I did actually go out and get myself some gloves because this is a lot of peppers and I really don't want my fingers to start to burn. So yeah, I'm going to get things together and I'll bring you back. Okay, I have cut up my first 5 cups of peppers. And I probably had about 2 dozen jalapenos still on the 6 little plants that we have growing, and we really did well this year. It was a year for peppers and it was the year for tomatoes for us. But as you can hear, my dishwasher's going because I'm heating up my jars so that I can begin this process. I'm going to make my brine now. All I'm going to do is put the sliced peppers into the jars, and then I'll add the brine. And yeah, it's pretty easy to do, and I'll show you that as I get going on this because I kind of forgot to turn on the dishwasher. What can I say? It's the way life goes sometimes, right? And yeah, so talk to you all in just a little bit. Right now what I'm going to do is make my brine, and I'm going to double this recipe. And so I'm going to use 2 cups of water and 4 cups of apple cider vinegar. And where did I set it? Just a minute. Which was the whole bottle. And 4 teaspoons of canning salt and 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and, sorry about that. I'll stick this on the stove and bring this to a boil. And I will continue cutting my peppers. Is just put them in my jars, and it says to fill up your jars, just packing them down a little bit, and that's what I will do. And now I am just going to put a clove of garlic on top. And now I'll get my brine. So as you can see, besides the mess that it made, it really is easy. And so, like always, we're going to make sure that there's no air bubbles, and we're going to wipe the rims, and we're going to put the lids on, and I'll stick it in the basket there for my water bath canner, and it should be good to go. It says that I should process it. Well, for my elevation, it's going to be 15 minutes, but the directions said 10. So I checked all my jars. They're all at a 1/2 inch headspace. So now, and I debubbled them. So now I'm just going to wipe the rims and get them into the water bath canner. And I'm in no way teaching anybody how to do this. I have not been canning for years and years, and so I don't feel qualified to do that. But don't these little jars make cute little gift jars? So, off to my canner. All in all, I think it went really well. I ended up with 8 half-pint jars and 7 pint jars. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7. I had to think there for a minute. And so, yeah, I'm sure my husband's going to really enjoy these. And, yeah, next thing on my agenda to can is chocolate syrup. So anyways, yeah. I'll talk to all of you in just a little while. For today's devotion, we are continuing in chapter 13 of Matthew, and we will be reading verses 47 to 50. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet cast into the sea and gathering fish of every kind. And when it is filled, they drew it up on the beach, and they sat down and gathered the good fish into containers, but the bad they threw away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth and take out the wicked from among the righteous, and will throw them into the furnace of fire, in that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, this parable immediately calls to mind Jesus's explanation of the parable of the wheat and the tares that we studied last week in verses 36 to 43. Yet there is a significant difference that I would like to point out. For example, in the parable of the wheat and the tares, the focus was upon the intervening time between Jesus's inauguration of the kingdom and the end of the age, during which he and the devil are at work in the world leading up to the final judgment. While the focus of the parable of the Dragnet, today's parable, is on the future judgment itself. Now, the second thing that I wanted to point out to you is that although the parable of the wheat and the tares included the destination of the wicked, the emphasis of that parable is on that the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father, and the promise of a glorious future for the believers. But today's parable, the parable of the Dragnet, places the emphasis upon the destruction of the wicked. Now, I want to take a moment and explain that there are 2 different kinds of nets used by fishermen in Jesus's day. There is a casting net, which was a smaller net that an individual could use by themselves. Then there was another kind, and that was the dragnet. In those days, a dragnet could cover as much as 1 square mile of water surface area. The net was long and would have weights on it. And they would spread out the dragnet between 2 boats that would drag it towards the shore. By the time they got the net to shore, it would be filled with all sorts of sea creatures. So the primary focus of today's parable is on the future and the final judgment of the wicked. And today's parable reveals to us that God, or I should say what God, is doing among lost people today. And that the kingdom of God involves two things: invitation and then separation. The sea in today's parable represents lost humanity. It is a sea of despair and hopelessness. It is a deep, dark abyss of iniquity. The net is the church, extending the gospel invitation. In this day of grace today, God is using us, the church, to throw out the gospel invitation. And what a privilege it is for us to live in this age of grace, where we are able to freely tell others about the saving grace. Now, because there will come a time once we get to the shore where there will be a separation. For the gospel is available to the entire sea of humanity, people of every kind. Nobody is so high that the net cannot reach them, and none are so low that the net cannot descend to them. None are so small that the net cannot embrace them. None are so big that the net cannot wrap around them. And I pray that none of us will ever get tired of casting the net and witnessing to others in the sea. Now, I want you to look at verse 48. Once the net was on the shore, there is a gathering. Notice that although fish of every kind were gathered, it does not say that every fish was gathered. Not everyone will be saved. We are not called to Christianize the world. We are called to evangelize it. Now, the next verse in 49, there is a separation. The interpretation of this parable reaches out into the future. Someday a great separation will take place, and it won't be the good people going to heaven and the bad going to hell. No, it's the separation between the saved and the lost, between the sheep and the goats, the just and the unjust. This separation will be final. There will be no appeals. Verse 49 says, "So shall it be." There is no loopholes. There is no way out. For now, it is too late. And it will be factual. God cannot make any mistakes. He knows who is saved and who is not. The conclusion to this message and its obvious application is to see this parable for what it is: a clear warning about the certainty, the finality, and the horror of the coming judgment of God. This is no joking matter, and however unpopular this subject is, or however uncomfortable it may be for us to talk about or to think about, Jesus demands that we do so. After all, the eternal destiny of each and every person is on the line. And like I always say, life happens. And this parable should burden us to respond. For life is precious, and we need to witness like there is no tomorrow. For there may not be. After all, when we listen to the news, it's like a rundown of the book of Revelation. We, as the Church of Jesus Christ, must cast the net and give the invitation before the day of separation comes, and extend our friendship, our time, and the gospel to the lost before the great separation takes place. God bless. I know that this is a little bit of a heavier devotion, but Jesus actually spoke more on hell than he did on love. So with that, I hope that everybody has a wonderful week and that, you'll come back on Friday. Please give it a thumbs up. This really does help my channel if you give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And YouTube has been doing something weird. A lot of people have let me know they are no longer getting notifications, even though my settings says to allow people to get notifications. So please check your little bell and make sure that if you'd like notifications, that is still on. So God bless, and I'll talk to y'all on Friday.